Hi, I'm Camilla Blossom. Nice to see you again, and welcome if you're new to my channel. I am a nature intuitive, and I'm going to be speaking about how I began to communicate with trees and also tree mediumship, and generally connecting with the spirits of trees, which includes the fairies, the gnomes, the dryads, the fauns, those spirits. I kind of got started with this journey back in 2000 when I began making flower essences. The fairies and nature spirits of the Columbia River Gorge called to me and a few others to begin making essences. And one of the types of essences I made quite a bit was the trees. Not only were the flowers wanting to have medicine to share with others, but the trees. Some of them have flowers, some leaves, some on needles, as we know, but using different parts of the tree, you can make these beautiful vibrational essences that help you heal, help your nervous system realign, repair. And so it kind of began the opening for my work more with plants. And just a little background too on my training, I am a apprenticed in herbalism with Joy Olson in the Columbia River Gorge. I also did a certification for aromatherapy. I've been making essences since 2000 and had a whole business around that. I'm currently focusing on tree essences, but I've really been deep into that energy medicine as an energy healer, a land alchemist, a fairy and elemental seer, and that kind of work. There is more videos I've done on some of how I got into communicating with the fairy realm and such. So check out my YouTube channel and find out a lot more. But this one, we're talking about the trees. So the other thing that happened along the way was apprenticeships, not just with people, but a lot of apprenticing with nature herself, with the earth, with the elementals, particularly. And so when I was working with the flower and tree essences and making them, there was a very strong emphasis on the air elemental and creating this medicine that we can take and use for healing. And so in those interactions, which involved ceremony, ritual, soaking the parts of the tree in the water, having these experiences where I was really opening my intuition, asking permission, doing ritual, and practicing and being with nature, with the trees, with the forests, or in the forests all around the Columbia River Gorge. It began opening me more and more to my natural intuition, my earth empathy, my sensitivity, which is already my superpower, but just taking the time to go out and listen and be and make medicine and then take the essences was a powerful way to build and cultivate and work with that over time. And it's because of that commitment to this path. It has been my path for a long time. Not only am I doing it in my personal life, but it's also become work as a planetary healer in many ways. I'm working with the earth and the grids and that kind of work, but also teaching events, mentoring a lot of folks, sharing a lot of the things I've learned from nature and along the way from other teachers as well. And so the trees, kept coming in all different ways, but that's sort of like the background. And then I've just had so many interesting experiences with the trees that I just felt like they had so much wisdom and healing and magic to share. And so I kind of just opened to them, to listening to them more, to being with them, to sitting with them, to visiting forests. And I think that natural love developed of wanting to really be with the trees and not just receiving from them, but to actually co-create with them. And like, for example, this tree behind me, this was when I lived in Mosier on this land that had created a lot of altars and a unicorn garden. And this big leaf maple tree wanted to be a portal to help me in my land work. And so it would show up every time I was doing work to clear spirits, ghosts from the land, or do planetary grid work. It wanted to take part. And so I would just invite the tree, grandmother maple, to work with me and to help me and assist, especially for those bigger projects when it takes a lot of energy. Having a big, old, sturdy, elder, wise tree to do with me and actually show me things was such a gift. So that's one example. I've also, been out with friends, thinking of the Western red cedar tree, where we would go out and just songs would come through and messages and visions and doing journeys with the trees. And so, for example, the cedar told me that my blood was 3 colors. It wasn't just red. It was blue, green, and red. And I'm like, oh, what is that all about? And the tree told me that, yeah, there's a red blood for your human self, but you're also a green realm person. So I have a foot in the fairy realms, and with the plant world, that is my medicine gift. And so the tree was showing that green realm was part of my blood too, and to recognize that. And then the blue blood was about my connection with spirit and having that strong connection with the spirit of nature is like the blue. And cedar also at other times showed me about our wisdom body, like taught me that we all have a wisdom body, and our wisdom body can reach all around the earth. And then it carries all the information that we need, all that intelligence, and taps in to the intelligence of the world. And so that was a beautiful teaching from the cedar. And so the pine was another one. They all love to teach songs. They loved clapping. They loved whistling. They loved touching, especially like the pine loves touching. So they all have kind of different ways they want to reach out to us. So there's a couple other things I want to share too that are I found pretty interesting. One was that I kept being around trees when they were falling, and it kind of became a thing. Even back when I lived in Ithaca, a huge cottonwood fell in our yard. And then when I moved out here, I had a large Western hemlock tree fall. Then when I was in a pine forest, I had just finished doing some healing work with a pine and feeling really good and thanking the pine and feeling very open-hearted. And then I'm standing against the pine and looking forward, and saw a huge pine fall and die right before me. And then more recently, I was in the sequoia forest and I heard another tree fall. And I just thought that was so interesting. There's some message about being a sacred witness to when trees fall, and also like gathering their medicine to me at that time when they're kind of releasing themselves back to spirit. There's also an opportunity to gather that up. So that's been an interesting journey. And then mediumship. I've had these very interesting experiences of merging with the consciousness of trees. And the first time that happened was some years back. I was doing a healing session for a woman, and she was in a generational family, Japanese lineage that grew fruit orchards, fruit trees in Hood River Valley. And there was a tree that was coming from her land that was very connected to her. and wanted to talk to her. And so during the session, I just felt this tree kind of take over my body and my presence and begin to speak. So I just told her, ask me questions because the tree wants to answer. It's not me anymore. So that was an interesting experience. And then it didn't happen for quite a while, but then in the last so many years, there have been a few more experiences where I could feel a tree coming in. Another one was the big leaf maple coming in and really wanting to use me as a voice, wanting me to speak and merge with its consciousness. But I've also noticed as the veils have gotten thinner that there is this ability to very easily and seamlessly communicate with trees. You may have noticed that, or just sharing love with a tree, or you just sit with it and feel better. It's not communication to me with a tree isn't always words. It's not always English language. It can also just be how you feel. It can be an energetic alignment or upload or transmission. It can be a forest, not just one tree, because they're really all connected in the mycelium network and underground. So there's lots of ways that we can communicate with them that are energetic, that are spiritual, that are magical, that are maybe beyond what you thought of. And so just to encourage you, if you're wanting to open more to communicate with trees, to open your mind and your heart to all the different ways. And if that is something you'd like to learn, I am beginning a 9-month journey, actually on Monday, April 14th, called Sacred Tree Mysteries. And we're going to work with tree spirit medicine, how you work with that, how you would create that relationship. I've had a lot of clients that I work with, and trees come in and heal them, or spirit trees grow in certain places on land, in my land alchemy work. So trees keep coming in all different ways, spiritually and energetic to me, to make that connection, to remind us that they are healers, they are guides, they are sentinels. They have all the Akashic records on earth. So they have the deep origin history going way back. And even the younger ones are connected to the older ones. And so there's a great wisdom in all of them, of all different ages. And so, yeah, if that's something you're interested in, can contact me through my website, camillablossom.com, or sign up right there and learn more. I've also had I guess I want to talk about the fairy realm a little bit, because that's a big part of my work, apprenticing to the air elementals with the flower essences and the fairy realms, and then apprenticing with the gnomes and the earth elementals and doing land work on Mosher and a lot of places around the world, and planetary healing. And then working with waters, which I've worked with waters for many years, doing ceremony and honoring and connecting with. And of course, trees, especially like the willow, are very connected to the water and to that flow and magic. And so that apprenticeship, and then also the fire. And I actually moved to Hawaii for that one. And I do have a book that I wrote all about my apprenticing with these different beings. Also, if you're interested in the tree essences or flower essences, I have a book as well on the Columbia River Gorge trees and flower essences, the native plants here. And they're especially emotional and spiritual medicine as essences. So that's kind of a little background, but yeah, the fairy realm, to me, I had this vision that, the trees come from another place. They come from another planet, which a lot of things on this planet really are, come from the stars, come from the solar system, the cosmos, and trees are part of that. But they are such important sentinels and guides and stabilizers, and like they're very important for the whole system of Gaia and her earth and the grids and keeping everything in balance. And so, but what they shared is that the trees did not come alone. They came with their entourage. They came with the spirits, the fairy realms, the elves, the gnomes, all the nature spirits, the fauns, the dryads, the actual spirit of the tree, but also the beings that are part of the whole, part of the forest, part of nature, part of Pan's realms, the whole world of nature. And so it's really important to make that connection as well, and not to see trees as separate, but really see them, the trees of life, the tree of life or the cosmic mother tree. I just did a video on that. That tree came in the last few years as really an example of the cosmic tree of creation, of oneness. That trees really represent our own nervous system, our own inner tree within our own bodies. They reflect that for us, our connection with the divine and our connection with the earth. But they also reflect, that tree of life, which is where all of creation sits. So within the tree of life, you can see that in every tree is the oneness, love, the unity consciousness, that is our birthright, that is our origins. And we're really remembering how to be more like a tree, how to be more nature infused, return home, go back to what our ancestors knew to be true. And so we're in this massive unfurling, uncovering, growing, immersion in these new 5D and higher energies, moving away from kind of what's in conflict, the dualistic world. So I really encourage you to spend time and build your relationship with the trees trees on your land. Say hi, talk to them, and also respect that trees have different personalities. There's some trees that are like totally into talking to us. They want to work with us. They want to do things with us. They're waiting for us to do that with them. There's other trees who do not want to deal with humans. There's others that just want quiet. So be really respectful, ask permission, give offerings, make altars, and enjoy your time with the trees. And I hope this gave you some insight into connecting with them in a deeper way. Like I say, I mentor others in this work, and in healing and ancestral and soul past life work. And also my Sacred Tree Mysteries is coming up soon, so don't miss out. All right, have a beautiful day, tree huggers, tree lovers, tree priestesses and priests. Thank you.